is my head. That was a time killer. Hey, it's me, Bob Doyle. Brains. This is me being a street vendor for brains. I probably wouldn't do very good. Brains, get your brains. Any human being's brains you want. You, sir. You look like you could use a brain. I mean, a new brain. Whose brain would you like? Select anybody. No, this isn't an actual, this is a representation of a brain. Okay. So Bob, what are you talking about now? What are you on about? It's only Thursday. You're acting very weekendy. So this idea of, whose brain would you like? This is a real thing. There was actually a study, there's something called the Rykov effect, which is kind of like what I'm about to talk about right now. But the idea is that if there is somebody out in the world who you admire or aspire to be like, what would it be like if you could have their brain? So is there anybody out there you go, man, if I could have their brain, the things I could accomplish? Think about it for a second. Is there anybody, maybe you go, oh, of course, this person. Well, you think about it for a minute. Now, I've given you plenty of time to think about it. So if you wanted to have that person's brain, what would be the first step? Well, think about what is it about that person's brain that you would like to have be a part of your brain. How does their brain function differently than yours? What behaviors do they have that you don't have? What do you think? What kind of meaning do you think they make out of life that you make differently? Where might they see possibilities that you don't, or whatever? But to imagine what it would be like to be them, think like them, act like them, speak like them, move like them, to the degree that you want. Because guess what? That is the first step to wiring yourself that way. Understanding what behaviors you'd like to take on, as opposed to what you exhibit maybe on autopilot that you know are slowing you down, perhaps even stopping you. So if you had that person's behavior, so you get to use them as sort of a template. And then guess what else you get to do? You get to imagine yourself being, acting, thinking, speaking, moving around life like that person. You get to use your brain, which is an amazing reality creation tool, but certainly good for imagining things like this, playing with your imagination, not getting all serious about it. Well, how would that? This is impossible. What if you thought like that person? So you close your eyes and you picture yourself going through life being and acting like that person, getting the results like that person. If you do that on a consistent basis in visualization, and then take that out into the real world and start to physicalize, I guess, what you imagine and visualize in terms of being and acting and thinking like that person, guess what's going to happen? The world is going to respond like you're that person because you're taking all the action, you're saying the things. And the more that you do it, the more repetition, the more that will be wired in to your brain, making that your new autopilot. Might there be some things you need to learn to know how this person thinks and acts and so on? Sure. So what did that person do to learn that? Guess what? You could do that too. So the idea is that we all think way too limited. We're stuck with, well, this is the brain I've got. How do I work with this? Well, your brain is ready to change to be just about anything you'd like it to be. And that is the work that I do, is to help you to identify how would you like to change your brain. Not that, look, I'm not saying anything about you personally. I'm sure you're delightful and successful and so on. But sometimes you get to the point where it's like, what's the next, the thing? I want the next thing. But you reach your limits of your wiring and so on, and you're just spinning in your own resources and you just kind of feel stuck. But what if you, just even through your imagination, could tap into the way other people think? Geniuses think, creative art, whatever you want, business executive, however they think. You can imagine that and then put it out there. So, but now putting that into practice can sometimes it's easier said than done, is what I'm saying. So the work I do is all about giving you the support you need to actually go out there and do this. Sounds great in theory, Bob. But then when you get out there to do it, all your stuff comes up, you get a chemical reaction, and how do you deal with that? And how do you stay consistent enough so that the wiring actually takes place? And it's not just like you had a couple of good days, but in fact, you're setting your brain up for success for the long term. Simply really starting by using your imagination and visualization in the right way with the right consistency, and while not allowing all the noise to come in. It's about learning how to be aware. And these are the types of things I teach at these free trainings. That there, coincidentally, is a URL on the screen that if you were to go there, Oddly enough, you go right to a registration page for one of these trainings. Try and do at least one a week. Next one is this Saturday, noon Pacific. If you're going to show up to learn about how your brain works and how it got how it is and how you can change it and why it's imperative that you do if you actually have a goal that's bigger than anything you've done before, choose one of those dates, see what works for you, allow an hour and a half or whatever to get the full training, to have the experience, and ask any questions. Because when it comes down to personal or any kind of transformation that's going to last, if it lasts, it's because your brain was wired to support the behavior that's going to make it last. And if you don't know how to wire your brain in that way, well, that's what we're here for. So I look forward to seeing you at one of